My husband and I had been married for 10 years. Our relationship was affectionate, we had both a son and a daughter, and there had never been any concubines or maidservants added to the household. Compared to other wives, people often said I was the happiest woman in the world. I used to believe that too. Until one day, my mother-in-law brought home a delicate cousin, hoping my husband would take her in as a favored concubine. I thought, after 10 years of deep affection between us, he would never agree. Unexpectedly, he nodded in consent. Of course, I refused. But in the end, she still entered the household. I hated that woman, a white lotus hiding the heart of a fox. She made a mistake, and I only punished her with an hour of kneeling, yet she had a miscarriage. From that day, I became the jealous wife who harmed the concubine's unborn child. My husband confined me, and the power to manage the household fell into her hands. Who would have thought that this confinement would end my life? In my dying moments, I seemed to hear a voice whispering in my ear, part mocking, part full of regret. Those words were etched deep into my heart. So there was another path I could have taken. My children. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my mother-in-law asked my husband to take my cousin as a favored concubine. This time, I chose to smile and agree. My cousin had just lost her mother, and her step-uncle immediately remarried. The new stepmother was hardly a kind soul. With no real affection, she wanted to marry off the girl to a good-for-nothing. The girl and Oppo's father, seduced by his new wife, didn't care for his daughter, leaving her to suffer. That's why the girl came to plead with me, her biological aunt. At this point, my mother-in-law paused, glanced at me, then turned to my husband, Tian Run. Your cousin, named Yuenji, is an obedient child who suffered so much. I truly pity her. Run, I think, it would be best to strengthen the family ties. Take Yuenji as a favored concubine. Maybe worried that Tian Run would refuse, she dabbed the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief. Your cousin has no one to rely on. If she marries elsewhere, I won't have peace of mind. At this moment, Zhao Yuenji looked almost exactly like my mother-in-law in her youth. For years, our household had only ever had me, Chi-Chi, as mistress. Taking in another would be to give mother-in-law a companion. Run, what do you think? Tian Run looked troubled, glancing at me, as if waiting for my decision. In my previous life, I lost my temper at these words and immediately retorted. Mother, I don't agree. If you're so worried about cousin suffering after marriage, why not let her marry out from our Marquis household? With the Marquis as her elder brother, who would dare trouble her? Why must she become my husband's concubine? Wouldn't it be better for her to be a legitimate wife elsewhere, rather than a concubine in our household? Zhao Yuenji, standing beside mother-in-law, shed tears, and said, Please, cousin, don't argue with aunt because of me. I only wish to keep you company, not to compete with you for anything. Hearing this, mother-in-law shouted angrily. Chi-Chi, all these years, you've been the only woman in Run's household. Look at other families, and look at yourself. Everyone says Run married a jealous woman, 10 years of marriage, and not even a single concubine. Do you know how much shame you brought him? At that time, I was furious and spoke without restraint. Why is it so bothersome that my husband and I are devoted? Why must there be more women in the house? Mother-in-law never liked me, after all, I was born to a military family, and my temper was never gentle enough. Not long after I married into the Tian family, I found out I was pregnant. She already wanted to plant a maid in my husband's room. I caused a commotion and almost miscarried, only then did the Marquis dare not follow through. Seeing me lose my temper again, mother-in-law turned to Tian Run. Run, is this the virtuous wife your father chose for you? How can she speak to her mother-in-law like this? In the capital, which household doesn't have concubines in the back residence? Why can't our family? 10 years of marriage, and Run only has a son and a daughter. Besides, Yuenji is only a concubine, it won't threaten the main wife's position. Why can't you tolerate her? Run, watch your manners with your mother. Just do as I say. Keep Yuenji in the house to accompany me, that's all the filial piety I want. To my surprise, my husband, Tian Run, agreed. They were always a team, only I was the outsider. Knowing how things would end, why keep playing the villain? Instead of shouting and raging, why not go along with it? Mother-in-law, seeing Tian Run still wanted my opinion, turned the pressure onto me. Chi-Chi, what do you think? I smiled and replied. I think mother is right, but... Mother-in-law immediately spoke in a cold tone. But what? I took a sip of tea, watched as their patience wore thin, and leisurely said. But this is a matter of taking a concubine for the Marquis. He must be willing for it to work. Tian Run, the hypocrite, wanted to push the hard decision onto me so he could blame me if things went wrong. So I simply gave him the responsibility. He was stunned to hear me say so, calling my name in disbelief. My attitude surprised him, but mother-in-law was pleased. Tian Run, Chi-Chi has agreed. What about you? Tian Run glanced at mother-in-law, then at me, then at Zhao Yuanji, and finally nodded. Then let's do as mother wishes. So it was settled. A date was chosen for Yuanji to enter the house, and I could easily instruct the servants to prepare. I bowed and left, ignoring the apologetic look in Tian Run's eyes. How foolish. The official wife of the Marquis's household, stooping so low as to fight over affection with a concubine, no wonder I ended up like this. My children are grown, yet all my thoughts are tied to a man. Love has clouded my mind. If it were me, I'd focus on raising my children well. When they're grown, I'd cast aside their father and let my son become the Marquis. Then the whole household would be under my control. A legitimate daughter of a military family, ending up so pitiful, it's tragic. What's the point of harming another woman's child? That concubine and my husband are cousins. If they have a child, it might not even be healthy. Wait until the child is born sick, then let them suffer. Why dirty your own hands and gain a bad reputation? You died just like that, who knows what will happen to your children? In my dreams, I kept seeing illness and hearing my own words echoing in my ears, unable to tell dream from reality. It was as if someone covered my mouth and nose. I was drowning and couldn't breathe. Suddenly. Madam, are you all right? Did you have a nightmare? It was Lu Zhou, the maid who served at night, who hurriedly asked when she saw me startle awake. What time is it now? Thick, heavy curtains blocked the light, making the entire room feel dark and suffocating. It's just past the hour of Mao. Do you want to get up now? I wiped the sweat from my forehead. Yes, let's get up. And have these curtains changed, replace them with thin gauze ones. Lu Zhou looked confused. Didn't you say the gauze curtains were too bright and affected your sleep? Lately, everything feels so gloomy. My heart is unsettled. Open the windows too. In my previous life, as soon as I was confined, Zhao Yuanji took over the household. My two main maids were dismissed for petty theft, replaced by two rough older women who took turns serving. Seeing I'd lost power, they showed me no respect. The courtyard doors stayed closed all day, never a ray of sunlight. Those were my last days, dark and endless. Even if I'd been given a second chance, I can't adapt to that kind of life again. Lu Zhou, come here. I have something to tell you. She came closer, and I leaned in to whisper a few words in her ear. The words from my dream left me uneasy. I wanted Lu Zhou to quietly look into things, to find out the truth. You must be discreet. Don't let anyone else find out. Yes, madam. The next morning, my two children, Tian Jingyan and Tian Jingshu, came to greet me. Mother, I greet you. Jingyan was 9 this year, spending most of his time studying with his tutor. Besides the morning and evening greetings, and occasionally eating together, we rarely had much time as mother and son. Mother, I greet you. Jingshu was 7, and since March had moved to her own small courtyard. She was lively and clever. Good children, come here. I stood up, pulled them both into my arms, breathing in the soft, milky scent of their bodies. With such well-behaved children, what would become of them if they lost their mother? His younger brother had made his mark on the battlefield as a teenager, earning the emperor's praise and nearly being named heir to the marquisate. But thanks to my engagement with Tianrun, my father had an excuse to support him as the legitimate eldest son, helping him secure the title of heir. The emperor couldn't go against the family rules, but to compensate, allowed the younger brother to establish his own household. As for Zhao Yuanji, she was a white lotus on the surface, gentle and weak, but underneath, she was vicious and calculating. In my previous life, when I was under house arrest, she even brought a man in to destroy my reputation. Tianrun didn't ask a single question, he pronounced me guilty, even used my children to threaten me, forcing me to die with resentment in my heart. One was incompetent and weak, the other cruel and ruthless. How could my children survive caught between the two? In my last life, I hadn't cared enough for my children. Now that I have a second chance, I'll do everything to protect and teach them well. Is it because father is taking a concubine that mother is unhappy? Jingshu asked softly. Don't worry, mother. If anyone dares upset you, I'll make sure she never has peace. My little daughter stamped her foot, indignant. Me too. Jingyan nodded solemnly, eyes serious. Looking at my well-behaved, understanding children, my heart melted. Jingshu, Jingyan, you're both treasures to me. Your father taking a concubine doesn't bother me at all. The only thing I care about is you two. As long as you're both healthy and safe, I am content. I held their hands and sat down at the table together. Today, have breakfast with mother. All your favorite dishes are here. Watching them eat with perfect manners, I felt a joy hard to describe. To see them again is the greatest comfort of this new life. Jingyan, do you want to learn martial arts? Jingyan, who had been eating quietly, looked up at me, eyes shining with disbelief. Really? Do you really want to learn? Yes. He nodded eagerly, his eyes full of hope. Jingshu also set down her chopsticks. Mother, I want to learn too. All right, both of you will learn. I'll ask your grandfather to find a teacher, and I'll learn alongside you. Seeing their excitement, I felt both happy and pained. In my previous life, I focused all my energy on Tianrun, neglecting my children and their hopes. Luckily, now I still have time. Though I am the daughter of a general, and learned a bit of martial arts growing up, most of it was just for show, not truly useful. When I was a child, I'd cry to quit at the slightest hardship, and my parents indulged me. If only I'd worked harder back then, I wouldn't have ended up at the mercy of coarse old servants, locked in the courtyard, unable even to leave my room. If I'd reached out to my parents and brothers, I wouldn't have died in disgrace. Zhao Yuanji had been in the household for half a year now. Because I deliberately avoided her, Tianrun rarely came to my rooms. Speaking of Tianrun's looks, he really had nothing to be ashamed of, strong brows, bright eyes, a heroic bearing. It was his appearance that made me fall for him and marry into the Tian family in the first place. But these past 6 months, the more I looked at him, the more displeased I became. Now, nearly 30, he'd grown lazy since inheriting the marquisate, losing the vigor of his youth. We hardly shared a bed anymore, and it had become a burden. But with my children still young, I grit my teeth and endured, serving him as necessary. It's no different from being bitten by a dog, just a small annoyance. Zhao Yuanji, just like in my last life, constantly appeared before me with her fragile, pitiable act, especially whenever Tianrun or my mother-in-law were around. If I were still my old self, I'd have argued with her every few days, making a scene at least once a month. Afterward, my mother-in-law and Tianrun would only be more disappointed, convinced I lacked the virtues to manage the household. But this life, I refuse to walk the same path. If I can avoid it, I will, if not, I'll just smile and go along. If she wants to frame me for pushing her, I'll fall before she does, crying even more pitifully. If she says I'm narrow-minded and jealous, then I'll be generous, just to show her. After all, I can't even be bothered with Tianrun anymore. Failing to achieve her schemes, Zhao Yuanji has been quiet for now. But if this timeline follows my previous life, she should already be pregnant. Hangzhou, the fish is at its best this season. Tell the kitchen to prepare a bowl of fish soup this morning, add a plate of braised fish, some crispy fried shrimp, and a roast chicken. Hangzhou looked surprised. Madam, the weather is stifling. Serving such oily dishes may not be suitable, especially as the old madam may not approve. I ignored her and asked a deother question instead. Has Concubine Zhao called a doctor recently? Hangzhou thought for a moment, then shook her head. No. Aside from her routine monthly checkups, I haven't heard of her calling for a doctor these past 2 months. Why do you ask, madam? I gently waved the round fan in my hand, answering casually. Concubine Zhao has been in the household for half a year. Shouldn't she have some good news by now? Hangzhou seemed to realize something, her face lighting up with excitement. I see. Madam wants to test if Concubine Zhao is pregnant by serving these oily dishes. If she really is pregnant and gets sick, she'll miscarry on her own, and no one could blame you. I glanced at her sideways. Who said I want to harm Concubine Zhao's child? This little maid, her imagination really runs wild. I shot her a glare. Thankfully, that incident back then had been handled by Lu Zhou. Lu Zhou was older, steady, and cautious. She took care of it perfectly, even though it was an internal affair. She managed to find plenty of plausible examples, and no one ever suspected a thing. Truly, she was capable. All I wanted now was to test whether Zhao Yuanji was really pregnant, simply to protect myself. If she tried to set me up, I'd at least be prepared. Hangzhou nodded, full of admiration. Madam, you're truly careful. It's always wise to be wary of others. I'll go give instructions to the kitchen at once. In my previous life, if Zhao Yuanji had revealed her pregnancy sooner, I'd never have punished her to kneel, nor would I have risked causing her to miscarry. At first, I suspected that she hadn't been pregnant for long and maybe didn't even know herself. But judging by her later reaction, she was clearly aware, yet deliberately provoked me into acting, using the child as her shield. That was her first child. How could she be so heartless, using her own flesh and blood as bait? From what I heard before I died, I'm all the more convinced, she already knew the child wouldn't survive, so she dragged me, the legitimate wife, down with her. Sacrificing a child who couldn't have been kept anyway, just to ruin my name, wasn't that a fair trade in her eyes? It was only an hour of kneeling, no wind, no rain, not even sun that day. Her health had always been fine, so how could she miscarry? So this time I would make her pregnancy public from the start. Even if I can't avoid her, surely I can keep her at a distance. In fact, I even hope she'll deliver safely this time. I want to see whether she truly has that kind of luck. I want to see just what she'll give birth to. Mother, this is fresh fish brought to the house this morning. The weather's just right for fish now. I've had the kitchen make it into soup, please, have a taste. The Marquis should try some too. I nodded slightly, then instructed the maid beside me. Send a bowl to Concubine Zhao as well. Normally, someone like Zhao Yuanji, just a minor concubine, had no right to dine at the same table as me and the Marquis. But she was my mother-in-law's own niece. So, in this Marquis household, besides her title, her treatment was as good as the main wife's. As expected, before long, Zhao Yuanji began to retch. Inside, I was delighted, but on the surface, I showed only concern. What's wrong, cousin? Does the food not agree with you today? Mother-in-law, on the other hand, couldn't hide her joy. Her whole attention was fixed on Zhao Yuanji, eyes sparkling like stars. Yuanji, could it be, you're pregnant? When was your last period? She asked without a hint of reservation, not even sparing a glance for Tianrun, who sat right there. Tianrun's expression shifted, a mix of joy and awkwardness. For a moment, he was at a loss for words. Zhao Yuanji glanced at him, then lowered her head, voice barely above a whisper. It's a few days late this month. Mother-in-law looked as if all her suspicions were confirmed, and immediately gave an order to a maid. Quick, go call the household physician for Yuanji. Not long after, the maid led in an old doctor, well past 50. Mother-in-law urged. Doctor, quickly check concubine Zhao's pulse. After a while, the physician withdrew his hand and bowed deeply. Congratulations, madam. Congratulations, Marquis. His eyes lingered on me with a hint of pity before he turned away to salute Tianrun instead. Concubine Zhao has been pregnant for more than a month. Good, good, good. Mother-in-law beamed, gripping Zhao Yuanji's hands. Give her a reward. But then the physician looked a bit troubled. Madam, the pregnancy is still young, and the fetus isn't stable. If she's not careful, it may be hard to keep. Mother-in-law's happiness was instantly doused with cold water. Then, what should we do? Doctor, you must do everything to protect the child in Yuanji's belly. Please rest assured, madam. I'll do my utmost. Humph. I'd better start finding a way to keep my distance now, so I don't get dragged into this mess again. As such, concubine Zhao is excused from daily greetings. She should stay in her rooms and focus on her pregnancy. Now, with a real pregnancy in the house, everyone's hopes were pinned on my cousin. Oh, how quickly things turn. And now the tricks begin. Rules of the house can't be changed just for Yuanji. That would be improper. Besides, I've already given birth twice. So much for my experience. So this is the trap they want me to fall into. If anything goes wrong, won't they accuse me of deliberately harming her pregnancy? No, thank you. I want nothing to do with this. Exceptions can always be made. Right now, the child in Yuanji's belly is most important, forget the rules. As for childbirth experience, I don't have much. When I was pregnant, my mother sent a trusted old maid to take care of me. I never had to manage it myself, not even looking after my own children, so honestly, I have very little experience. In that case, can sister lend me that old maid? The doctor said the pregnancy is weak, having an experienced person around would be reassuring. Her nerve, really, first she wanted me, the main wife, to personally care for her pregnancy, and now she wants my staff. She just won't leave me in peace for a single day. My daughter is grown now, and that old maid was sent home to retire by my mother years ago. Besides, the house is full of doctors and midwives, all very experienced. There's no need to worry. Madam, don't you agree? She turned to mother-in-law. I didn't believe mother-in-law would dare entrust a pregnant woman carrying the family's hope to my care. She was sensible enough to nod in agreement. Chi-Chi is right. Just rest in your rooms, Yuanji. I'll assign 2 experienced matrons to look after you, and the doctor will check on you daily. Tianrun, who'd been silent the whole time, finally spoke up. His words made everyone a bit awkward. Yuanji, just do as mother and my wife say. After all, the main wife has to manage all the affairs of the marquisate, how could she have time to look after you herself? As soon as those words left his mouth, the room fell silent. Zhao Yuanji's face flushed with embarrassment, head bowed so low she dared not look up, her voice choked with grievance. Yes. Yuanji will listen to the marquis. Her words were full of stifled resentment. For now, I'd managed to push back the trouble named Zhao Yuanji, and felt a weight lift from both body and mind. But unexpectedly, Tianrun, that thorn in my side, hurried after me. Even though I was fed up with him, I still maintained a polite tone. Marquis. Tianrun opened his mouth to say something, but only hesitated awkwardly, struggling to get the words out. This is what I despised most about him, he always wanted something but never dared to say it directly, as if hoping others would read his mind and make it easy for him. Like a courtesan wanting to build a temple to her own chastity, always longing for both. My patience worn thin, I spoke bluntly. Marquis, if you have something to say, just say it. After so many years as husband and wife, there's no need to beat around the bush. I must have hit a nerve, for Tianrun blushed with shame. But he stiffened his neck and forced out. Madam, about Yuanji's pregnancy, could you? Marquis. What kind of person do you take me for? I didn't finish the sentence, but with my understanding of him, his next words weren't hard to guess. Though I was furious, his request was no surprise. Tianrun fumbled to explain. "Madam, that's not what I meant, you misunderstand." "Well then. Better to use this as an excuse to leave the household for a while. But since you've said so, I'll go back to my family's house for a few days. Jingyan and Jingshu are already studying at my elder brother's place, I might as well go and look after them. You don't need to worry that I'll harm Zhao or the child in her belly." "Madam, I truly didn't mean that." He reached out as if to stop me, but I stepped back, evading his hand. Seeing the ugly expression on his face, I had no wish to drag things out. "Marquis, just focus on taking care of Concubine Zhao. She's pregnant now, she needs your attention more than ever. Let me congratulate you in advance, and may you soon have a son." I had to use these few days to get the household affairs in order. I couldn't allow the place to be overrun the moment I left. This Marquisate, I had to keep it in my grasp. When mother-in-law learned I wanted to return to my parents' house, she had nothing more to say. She was probably just as happy. No matter how pretty my words were, what wife would truly wish for her husband's concubine to bear a child? I stayed at my parents' home for a few days, until my family started to wonder. My elder brother came to see me one day while the two children were practicing martial arts. "Sister, you've been home for a while. When will you return to your husband's house?" Perhaps thinking he'd overstepped, he quickly added, "I'm not trying to chase you away. It's just, now that the concubine is pregnant, if you stay away, she might grow bold, thinking she can seize control because of the child. If you're wronged, we brothers will demand justice for you. Let them know you're not to be trifled with. You're the mistress of the Marquisate, you need to hold the back courtyard steady." I knew my brother was truly worried for me. But I'd already made my plans. "Don't worry, brother. Everything at the Marquisate is under control. I get daily news from the household, even though I'm not there, I know what's happening. If anything goes wrong, I'll return at once. I won't let myself be taken advantage of. Right now, Zhao's pregnancy is still unstable, I don't want to be blamed without reason. Once she's out of danger, I'll return and watch the show at my leisure." Seeing how calm I was, my brother no longer pressed me to go back soon. "But sister, why are you only now thinking of learning martial arts?" I laughed sheepishly. "I'm a mother now, shouldn't I set a good example for my children?" After all I'd been through, I finally understood how important it was to have a strong, healthy body. My brother seemed to recall my childhood, and laughed. "My sons are all strong and tough now, unlike you back then, who couldn't handle even a little hardship." Thinking of those times, I couldn't help feeling a bit embarrassed. "Don't tease your little sister, brother. Zhao Yuanji's pregnancy really wasn't easy to keep. From the moment she conceived, it was a struggle just to stabilize it. In the early months, when I had reason to return to the Marquisate, she even tried to blame her weak pregnancy on me. Too bad I never had any intention of harming her. On the contrary, I sincerely hoped she'd deliver safely. Because I wanted to know, was what happened back then a stroke of luck, or a calamity? Later, as the pregnancy advanced, she did become more obedient. At last, the day Zhao Yuanji went into labor arrived. For something so important, of course I had to return to the Marquisate. When I arrived at her courtyard, my mother-in-law and Tianrun were already waiting anxiously outside the birthing room. Inside, her cries of pain rang out, interspersed with the urgent voices of the midwives. Outside, my mother-in-law looked even more agitated than Tianrun. Seeing me arrive late, she vented her pent-up anger on me. "Chi-Chi, what kind of mistress are you? Always running off to your parents' house, are you so mistreated here? Even on the day my son's child is born, you're not around. You make an old woman like me take care of everything." I couldn't be bothered to argue, so I simply offered a few words to appease her. "I've been caring for Jingyan and Jingshu, sorry to trouble you these days, mother. I've been negligent as a daughter-in-law." With my children as an excuse, there was nothing more she could say. Tianrun also tried to smooth things over. "Mother, don't blame her. She's just worried for the children. Isn't she here now? Perhaps because she was. If it were any other day, she wouldn't have stopped lecturing me for at least an hour. It's born. It's born. A cry of joy erupted from inside, followed by the wail of a newborn. Mother-in-law and Tianrun's faces immediately brightened. As for me, I unconsciously clenched my fists, cold sweat beading in my palms. Madam. Lu Zhou stood by my side, gently squeezing my hand. I squeezed back. Zhao Yuanji had given birth. So much had changed, maybe, just maybe, my fate could change as well. But what troubled me most right now was the child. What kind of fate awaited him? The newborn's cries were loud and clear. Was Zhao Yuanji's luck really this good? Finally, the doors of the birthing room opened, and the midwife stepped out, carrying the swaddled infant. Congratulations, madam. Congratulations, Marquis. Concubine Zhao has given birth to a young master. Mother-in-law, beaming with joy, rushed forward to take the child in her arms. Good, good. It's a boy. Reward them. Everyone gets a reward. Tianrun couldn't hide the rare smile of a new father. I let go of Lu Zhou's hand, feeling a faint emptiness, as though I'd just let go of fate itself. Zhao Yuanji, truly blessed. No matter. My own Jingyan is 10 years older than this child, there's still plenty of time. No need to rush. But then. The midwife's face suddenly grew awkward. She hesitated several times before finally bowing her head and speaking up. Madam, the child's hand, there's something unusual. Mother-in-law and Tianrun, who had just been overjoyed, both froze. Mother-in-law hurriedly unwrapped the swaddling cloth. Before their eyes, the baby's tiny hands appeared, 3 fingers on the right hand were fused together. Mother-in-law was so shocked she nearly dropped the child, and would have if Tianrun hadn't caught her just in time. Tianrun stood there, stunned. How did this happen? I'd thought I was resigned to fate, but my heart twinged again. Even though I'd guessed as much, I still had to pretend to share their worry. Marquis, why not call the doctor to see if anything can be done? I nudged Tianrun several times before he snapped out of it. Yes, call the physician. The household doctor hurried in, but, unfortunately, this was a congenital defect. The fingers were fused too tightly. Even he was helpless. Taking the chance, I made a suggestion I knew no one wanted to hear. The palace physicians are highly skilled. Marquis, why not send a letter inviting one of them to examine the child? No. As expected. A child born with a deformity, how could they let the secret out? If word spread outside, the Marquis household would become a laughingstock. Zhao Yuanji, knowing her child was malformed, didn't dare utter a word, just cradled the baby in a corner and wept in silence. Watching their darkened faces, I felt a strange sense of relief. After a while, though, even that grew tedious, so I decided to withdraw for some rest. It really wasn't anything so terrible, after all. Madam, how can you be so heartless? Just because he's not your own, you can act so indifferent. Before I could respond, Zhao Yuanji's sobbing cut me off, the meaning clear. Did she really think I was easy prey? Seeing all those suspicious, reproachful eyes, I no longer bothered with politeness. And what do you expect me to do? Should I take a knife and slice his hand apart, separate the fingers? This isn't some incurable disease, there are plenty of people with 6 fingers, aren't they living just fine? This child is only missing a few fingertips, not as if he can't eat or drink. Why is everyone so worked up? Zhao, take your child back to your room and rest. Apart from those fingers, he seems healthy enough. Tianrun, perhaps tired from all the arguing, pressed his fingers to his forehead and said impatiently. Yuanji, just take the child back and get some rest. Aunt. Zhao Yuanji was still unwilling, looking up at mother-in-law for help. Mother-in-law, too, seemed exhausted. She waved her hand dismissively. It's late. Everyone, leave. Yuanji, you just gave birth, you're weak. Don't stay outside too long, or you'll catch a chill. Go and rest. you're still young, there will be other chances to bear children. To keep the baby's defect a secret, the full-month banquet was kept simple. The child was only brought out briefly for the guests to see before being taken away again. Tianran named the child Tian Jingyan, hoping he would grow up in peace. During this period, Zhao Yuanji became much more subdued. I had no interest in seeing her tragic face every day, better for her to focus on raising her child, rather than troubling me. It wasn't until Tian Jingyan was nearly a year old that everyone realized something was wrong. Compared to other children, Jingyan was far less responsive. Other babies cried for their mothers, made a mess all day, he hardly cried or fussed at all. Zhao Yuanji thought her son was gentle and considerate. Not until she noticed he reacted to sound extremely slowly, calling him for ages with no response, did she suspect a problem with his ears. But the doctor found nothing wrong with his hearing. After several more months, the doctor finally gave his verdict: Jingyan was mentally deficient. To put it plainly, the child was an imbecile. This news struck Zhao Yuanji like a bolt from the blue. With all that anger bottled up, she needed someone to blame, and in the Marquis household, who else but me? But, that was only what she thought. Madam, how can you be so cruel? Jingyan was already born with a deformity, why couldn't you leave him alone? How could you drug him and make him a fool? I stared directly into the suspicious gazes of mother-in-law and Tianran and spoke sharply. Zhao, mind your tongue. Don't accuse me without proof. Do you have any evidence for your claims? Still sobbing, Zhao Yuanji pleaded. You control the entire household. While I was pregnant, I stayed in my rooms, hardly daring to step out. Please, I beg you, let me and my child go. I gave her a cold look and said sternly. Zhao, your child was sick in the womb from the start. Don't dump your filth on my head. By now, Zhao Yuanji could no longer hold her tongue. Who else in this house but you could harm my child? You're just afraid he'll threaten your son's position as heir. A low laugh escaped me, her words both ridiculous and infuriating. A concubine's child, born with a deformity, do you really think he could threaten my son's place as heir? Zhao, your ambition isn't small. Chi, that's enough. Mother-in-law snapped at me, her scolding voice ringing out. As the mistress of the Marquis, how can you speak so crudely? Madam, please don't upset mother. Tianran rose, playing peacemaker as always, and comforted his mother. Madam, your words went too far. Yuanji only spoke out of grief for her child. If you didn't do it, no one will blame you, but your words really were harsh. As mistress of the house, how could you? I cut him off, not bothering to be polite. So the Marquis does remember I'm the mistress. If outsiders didn't know better, they'd think I was only here to take the blame for everyone. Everyone dumps their anger on me, all the work is mine, all the faults are mine. In this house, everything is your responsibility. If we don't ask you, who should we ask? Mother-in-law shot back, full of righteous indignation. So what you're saying is, even Tian Jingyan's deformity is my responsibility. Madam, mother didn't mean it that way. Tianran tried to smooth things over, acting as if he were some kind of peacemaker. But I knew very well, he was just stirring muddy water, hoping that covering everything with a white sheet would make the trash underneath invisible, pretending all was clean and well. Mother, we still don't know the real reason for Jingyan's condition. To blame Madam so quickly is rather rash. Marquis. Zhao Yuanji turned to Tianran, eyes full of grievance. But Tianran's gaze showed only annoyance. You can't even take care of a child, yet manage to stir up the whole house, making everyone's life miserable, day after day. Zhao, go back to your rooms and look after Jingyan. I'll call more doctors and see what can be done. Tianran rarely lost his temper, so these words frightened Zhao Yuanji into silence. She bit her lip and left, her grievance unspoken. After she left, mother-in-law also found an excuse to slip away, leaving just me and Tianran in the courtyard. Once no one else was around, he dropped all pretense and asked directly. Was Jingyan's condition your doing? I didn't answer immediately, just replied calmly, changing the subject. If I'm not mistaken, your mother and Zhao Yuanji's mother were twins, weren't they? That's right. Some say that when close relatives marry, their children are much more likely to be born unhealthy. Tianrun's face went pale, disbelief written all over it. What are you talking about? You don't believe me. At first I didn't either. But it turns out, it's not uncommon. People often like to marry within their clan, so I had someone discreetly investigate. And as it happens, there's evidence. Not always, but the odds are high. Besides, your mother and Zhao Yuanji's mother were twin sisters. That means you and Zhao are even more closely related than ordinary cousins. Isn't it even likelier for a child to be born with a defect? I was genuinely curious, did he really think I'd soil my own hands just to harm Zhao and her child? If you don't believe me, feel free to investigate yourself. Watching the horror on Tianrun's face, I simply curved my lips in a faint smile, turned, and left him standing there, lost in shock. Marquis, Madame is still napping. She hasn't woken yet. In a half-awake daze, I heard the noise and bustle outside the courtyard, making it impossible to rest. Hangzhou, looking as if she'd made some mistake, rushed up to my bed. Madam, I couldn't stop the Marquis. Sorry for disturbing your rest. Tianrun barged in, his face stormy. When did you know? May I at least sit up before we talk, Marquis? Hangzhou, bring some tea for the Marquis. I'd only just woken, my head still groggy, but I could guess why Tianrun was here today. After I'd dressed and stepped out, Tianrun was quick to return to his topic. When did you know about my child with Zhao Yuanji? Why didn't you tell me? Once again, he was trying to make me the scapegoat. I shot him a cold look, annoyed. You've come all the way here, surely you've investigated everything already. As for you and Zhao Yuanji, what's it got to do with me? Why should I meddle in other people's business? Tianrun ignored my answer, still pressing. As soon as Zhao got pregnant, you ran off to your parents' house. Didn't you know from the start? Oh, so Tianrun can use his head after all. When I didn't answer, he took it as confirmation, pouring all his bottled-up anger onto me. You knew all along, why keep it to yourself? Was it just to wait for Yuanji to give birth to a deformed child, so you could mock me in secret? Chi. We've been married for years, yet you're this cruel, I never expected it of you. I was already sleep-deprived and cranky, how could I bear such accusations? Cruel. Tianrun, do you even hear yourself? Was it I who forced you to take your own cousin as a concubine? Was it I who made you get her pregnant? Weren't you and your mother the ones who orchestrated everything? Now you turn around and blame me, someone who had nothing to do with it, calling me a wicked woman. Tianrun, do you call yourself a man? At the mention of his own cousin, Tianrun's face turned green, then white. You're the mistress of this house. How can you say you're not responsible? If you'd spoken up earlier, Jing'an wouldn't have ended up like this. If people find out I have a fool for a son, won't the Marquis become a laughingstock? I let out a scornful laugh. And if I'd spoken up, what would have changed? Would you have believed me? Or would you just accuse me of jealousy, of making up stories to slander Zhao and stop her from entering the household? Even if I had stopped her, if she'd never entered the house, never gotten pregnant, you'd still say I was petty and couldn't tolerate another woman in your life. I glared at him, my anger boiling. Tianrun, you're 30 years old. Why do you still lack even a shred of manly spirit? Every time something goes wrong, you dump the blame on me. Listen carefully. I never interfered in this from the beginning, and I won't bother with it in the future. Deal with it yourself. My tongue lashing finally left Tianrun ashamed, stammering. Madam. I'm sorry, But he couldn't finish the sentence. At last, he managed only a muttered. I'll handle it. I'm leaving. And with that, he turned and hurried away, looking very much like he was fleeing. Marquis. Suddenly, an idea struck me. I called him back. You've already investigated, so you must know children born like this aren't inevitable. Why not try again with Concubine Zhao? Perhaps next time, the child will be healthy. So, Marquis, you'll have to work even harder. I gave him an encouraging smile. In return, Tianrun's face went black as the bottom of a pot. He snorted coldly and flung his sleeve, stalking off. But I was certain, Tian Jing'an was almost certainly the only and last child Tianrun would ever have with Zhao Yuanji. I never imagined Tianrun could be so ruthless. He completely shattered whatever final illusions I'd once had about him. He was truly capable of biding his time for bigger ambitions. In just a few days, bad news came from Zhao Yuanji's courtyard. Tian Jing'an, sickly since birth, died young. Even a beast rarely eats its own young, and yet. It wasn't so surprising, really. In my previous life, after everything happened, Tianrun, for the sake of the Marquisate reputation and the child's legitimacy, even advised me to end my own life to preserve their honor. After Jing'an's death, Tianrun became a turtle, shrinking into his own shell, hardly showing his face around the household. I have no idea if, after my death in my past life, he ever fell into such despair. Not until mother-in-law's birthday, when the house threw a grand banquet for the occasion, did Tianrun finally emerge, putting on decent robes and forcing himself to look presentable. "Madam, I didn't mean to." A young maid I didn't recognize was kneeling at my feet, flustered, apologizing for having stained my gown. The scene was all too familiar. I once thought I had changed my fate, but round and round, I found myself right back at the beginning. This was the great disaster of life and death from my previous existence. But I was no longer the same woman. Knowing it was a trap, how could I blindly step into it now? Still. Zhao Yuanji, since you've dug a pit, it isn't complete until someone is buried in it. All right, get up. There are many guests in the house today. Be careful with your work and don't bump into anyone important. Yes, madam. Returning to my room, a shabby-looking man in peasant clothes appeared inside, just as I'd expected. "Kaija," I called softly. From the shadows, the hidden guard revealed himself. With a single knife-hand strike, Kaija brought the man to the ground, limp and helpless. "Take this filth away, deliver him back to whoever sent him. Don't dirty my floors." "At your command." Kaija hauled the man off without leaving a trace. And I was still waiting. Before long, noise outside the door grew louder. Clearly, a crowd was gathering. Just as in my previous life, they would storm in with witnesses to catch me in the act, making a spectacle of the Marquis, pushing me to the edge of ruin. Calmly, I walked to the door and opened it amidst the urgent knocking. "Mother, why have you come here? And brought guests to my chambers?" A matron I'd never seen before piped up. "We heard the Marquis's wife had prepared a rare and marvelous gift for the old madam's birthday and were simply curious to see. I hope we're not intruding." I knew mother-in-law had nothing to do with this. After all, it was her birthday, she would hardly enjoy seeing the household's reputation destroyed. No, this was surely Zhao Yuanji's plot. No offense taken. I simply asked my elder brother to find something special, and it only just arrived. I was just about to fetch it. "Lu Zhou, bring out my birthday gift for mother so the ladies may admire it together." Lu Zhou brought out a large, multicolored glass ornament, sent by my brother from afar, a piece I often admired in leisure. Colored glass was common enough, but one of this size was rare indeed. With this, I'd weathered the storm. After the banquet, word spread from Zhao Yuanji's courtyard. This time, I'd already prepared. I had people guarding her courtyard, not letting anyone in or out, ensuring nothing would damage the Marquisate's reputation. After all, the household was already within my grasp. Matters of the house should be handled by the house, this was no play for the world to see. Inside, Zhao Yuanji cowered at the foot of her bed, clutching her blanket, crying miserably. A shabby man lay bound and gagged, struggling in the corner. When outsiders entered, this was the scene they saw. Once the unnecessary people were gone and the door closed, Zhao Yuanji lunged for mother-in-law as if grasping a lifeline, clutching her leg. And, it's not what it looks like. I didn't. You must help me. She barely got, alright, tell me everything, from start to finish. Mother-in-law took a seat. Zhao Yuanji, wiping her tears, knelt on the floor and slowly recounted. I don't know why I fainted in the front courtyard. When I woke, I was already on the bed, with that man beside me. And, I swear I did nothing wrong, I have no idea how this happened. She turned, teary-eyed, to Tianrun. Marquis, you have to believe me. But today, I was just here to watch the show. Marquis, look at how far you've driven your cousin. Perhaps she only wanted a healthy child and thought of borrowing some seed. But cousin, if you were going to do that, couldn't you at least have chosen a better-looking man? Otherwise, the child would only bring shame to the Marquisate. Chi, enough. Tianrun's face was as black as coal. It was you. It had to be you behind all this. Zhao Yuanji screamed in fury. You planned this, didn't you? Wasn't it enough that I couldn't bear a child, you still want to ruin me? Why won't you let me live? I curled my lips, indifferent. Yes, since you can't give the Marquis an heir, what would I gain by harming you? If you're gone, would he not simply take in someone else who could bear children? Why would I bother? The truth was, we both knew, she'd tried to harm me and got caught in her own trap instead. But would she dare say it out loud? Of course not. Who else would want to harm me, if not you? I lazily echoed her earlier words. Didn't you want to borrow a seed for a child? I've never seen that man before, he's not one of the Marquisate's people. How did he get into the inner chambers? Shall we call the authorities and let the Yamen investigate? No. Don't. The two shouts came at once, one from Zhao Yuanji, the other from mother-in-law. Call the authorities. I was only half serious, none of them would dare bring this shame outside. After all, the Marquisate's reputation still had to be preserved. The first voice was Zhao Yuanji's, the second was mother-in-law's. In truth, this matter wasn't hard to unravel, by now, the whole household was already in my hands. In the end, the adulterer was quietly executed, while Zhao Yuanji, out of respect for mother-in-law, was sent to a remote manor, condemned to a living death. I was about to leave when Tianrun called me back. You could have resolved this more gently. Why did you have to go so far? Since when did you start seeing me as a saint, Marquis? Tianrun looked a bit stunned. I went on. She's only reaping what she sowed. Marquis, you're so obsessed with keeping the peace that you turn a blind eye to everything. But too much forbearance only leads to disaster when it explodes, by then, it can't be undone. With that, I turned and left, not caring what Tianrun thought. When Zhao Yuanji left the Marquisate, I went to see her off in person. Zhao, even now, you still want to harm me. If you'd just accepted your lot, your life wouldn't have been so miserable. You never had a child, so why do all this? Zhao Yuanji gave a bitter smile, as if finally resigned to fate. That's right, I have no child. But as long as you're gone, I could treat your child as my own. I just wanted a place for myself, is that so wrong? You've lived in luxury for years, why not me? Why must I always be beneath you? So she'd been plotting all along. As for her words about loving my children as her own, I didn't believe a single word. People like her, insatiable, always wanting more. Most people in this world are destroyed by their own greed and inability to be content. You walked the wrong path yourself, and now you must pay for it. Zhao Yuanji hadn't even been at the manor long before news came back, she'd gone mad. I immediately had her guarded closely, she couldn't be allowed to harm anyone else. Death would have been too easy for her. She deserved to live every day and every hour in torment. That would be the end for her. As for Tianrun, I never thought to save him, nor did I ever try to change him. I took the initiative to find him two beautiful, gentle concubines, just to spare myself his constant visits. The next time I sought him out, it was about succession. Soon, my son Tian Jingyan would come of age and celebrate his capping ceremony. I planned to arrange for him to take the same path as his uncle, earn merit in battle, then inherit the marquisate. All these years, Jingyan had trained in the army under his uncle, earning some reputation. Even the emperor had noticed him. Unlike Tianrun, who, at his age, still held only a nominal title with no real power. I didn't mince words. Jingyan will soon have his capping ceremony. I hope you'll hand over the title. You, what did you say? Tianrun looked as if he couldn't believe his ears. I repeated. I said, Marquis, you should submit a memorial to the emperor, requesting to step down on grounds of age and to hand the marquisate over to Jingyan. With Jingyan's abilities, even our ancestors would have no reason to object. So please, don't block your own son's path. Retiring now is only reasonable. Tianrun wasn't even 40, so claiming old age was obviously an excuse, but that was the point. He was silent for a long time. I wasn't in a hurry. This was a decision that needed time to digest. I sat quietly, waiting for his reply. At length, Tianrun rubbed his forehead and said slowly. All right, I understand. The marquisate was always meant for him. If he's capable, there's no reason not to hand it over early. I'll go to court tomorrow and request the imperial decree. Hearing his promise, I finally felt at ease. I stood, turned to go. Madam. I remember you used to call me husband. I wonder when we became like this. Back when we first married, we were so happy. His words made my steps falter. Even a heart I thought had turned cold, ached a little at that. Yes, once, we truly were happy. Among all those young noblemen, Tianrun wasn't the most outstanding, but in my eyes, he was the only one. He was lively, handsome, and devoted to me. If I could go back, maybe I'd still choose him. But time wears people down, it changes hearts. There's no going back to how it was. Even if I had a second chance, my path now could never be the same. We are no longer who we once were. Marquis, for us to each live peacefully from now on is already the best outcome. With those words, I lifted my skirt and walked away. Behind me, I seemed to hear Tianrun's soft sigh. He really is old now, growing sentimental at his age. For someone like Tianrun to step down so young was rare. And for someone as young as Jingyan to inherit was also unusual, but it was only natural, since there were no elders left above him. There were a few who grumbled about Jingyan's youth, but who else at his age had accomplished as much? Even the emperor had no objection, so let the world talk. My fiercest opponent was, unsurprisingly, my mother-in-law, the former marquis's wife. No, I should now call her the Dowager Madam. As for the lady of the marquisate, now, that title belongs to me. What's done is done. When she summoned me, it was only to vent a little, to hurl a few insults and ease her anger. I simply went and listened for a while. If I stirred up trouble now, it would only bring gossip upon Jingyan. He'd just taken the title. This was the time to build merit and reputation, not let idle complaints become the source of mockery. Shwe shwe. Was it you? I know my son, he would never suddenly give up his position. It must have been your doing. Why are you in such a hurry? The marquisate would have belonged to Jingyan sooner or later anyway. Tianrun is still in his prime, and yet you made him yield his place. What do you think the world will say? Yes, the marquisate would end up in Jingyan's hands regardless, but if he inherited early, then I could enjoy peace and comfort sooner. Wasn't that even better? I softened my tone, persuading her. Dowager Madam, if the marquisate will eventually belong to Jingyan, isn't it better to let him take charge early, to make the family's name shine again? Our marquisate has been overlooked for years. You look down on my son, don't you? I almost laughed out loud. Likely only the Dowager Madam still considered Tianrun some great talent. Years ago, his own younger brother nearly took the heir's place. That's exactly why I sent Jingyan to be tempered by my own family. He suffered, but he surpassed them all. Now, at last, I could understand a little of the dowager's heart. Every mother thinks her child is the best in the world. You want to anger me to death, don't you? I'll accuse you of being unfilial. Clutching her chest, the dowager wailed with righteous indignation. Whatever sympathy I'd felt instantly vanished. If she wished to accuse me of being unfilial, let her go and see what the world decided, who was at fault, the daughter-in-law, or the mother-in-law who, even at her age, could not abide her son's wife. Not wanting to upset her into another fit, I excused myself and withdrew, leaving her behind. My parents and siblings had each other for support, Shiyu was married well, and Jingyan now headed the marquisate. A life like this was already complete. At last, it was time to enjoy my twilight years. The bitterness and pain of my past life gradually faded away, like mist, no longer lingering in my heart. Madam, the weather is lovely today, Lu Zhou murmured beside me. Now, with only Lu Zhou at my side, I couldn't help but sigh. Yes, from now on, the days can only get better. Being the dowager of the marquisate is truly far more pleasant than being the marquis's wife ever was. The end.